What's good, family? Chiefdryno is live. Chiefdryno is live. I know something happened the last time with my mic, so I'm going to do a sound check before I begin anything. See what's here. Is anybody here? There's nobody here at the moment, so I'm just going to use this moment to do a sound check. Sound check. Here. There's nobody here at the moment, so I'm just going to use this moment to do a sound check. All right, the sound is good. Welcome to the stream. Whoever is here, let us know. Make yourself known. All right. Let us know who you are, and we shall get talking. We shall get talking in a minute. And we shall get talking. All right. Okay. So now, there's a lot that's going to be happening in the month of April. Of course, this recent event or misfortune of Nipsey Russell or Nipsey Hussle. Of course, he was murdered on the here was the 1st of April, which is really bad news for Pan-Africanism and the global unification of everyone of African descent. Yeah. It's very bad. It doesn't look good in the eyes of the world when it comes to Black people. Okay, so my thing to do is to promote Pan-Africanism, the global unification of everyone of African descent. Okay, the global unification of everyone descent. I will spread more love than I will spread any hate or malice. All right, so the month of April, I will start that with celebrating the independence of some African countries. You know, the entire continent of Africa is liberated from colonial rule, and people say that Africans are not free. Politically, Africans are free, but mentally not. Okay, and economically not as well. The greatest form of oppression or bondage is, you know, mental slavery, and also economic slavery or bondage. So even though Africa is free on the books or in the books, you know, physically, the minds of the African leaders, especially the African leaders, are still in bondage. Okay, and economically, Africa is still an economic slave for the West. Okay, especially France. Okay, siphoning over $500 billion a year out of Africa. Okay, France uses the euro, doesn't use the CFA anymore, or the CFA. Okay, but African countries are using the CFA. Okay, that is not right. Okay, that is not right, and that is a form of economic slavery. Okay, And today's topic is, I am someone that always look at things critically, and from the critical point of view, China's business with Africa is great for Africa. Okay. On average, if you ask anyone African, how do you consider China's relationship with Africa? Okay, you would say, hello, Hisaneva, and Hasinova. Thanks for joining the stream. You subscribed to my channel today. Thank you very much. Your channel is really beautiful. I love the music on there, even though I do not speak Azerbaijan. Is it Azerbaijan you're from? Azerbaijan. Yeah. Very beautiful country. Beautiful language, beautiful people. And they sing really beautiful music. I saw them participate in Eurovision. And yeah, I really love the songs coming from Azerbaijan. But yeah, much love to the family in Azerbaijan. We all family. Okay, we all family. Thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, so I will start off by celebrating a few African countries that had independence in April. So let's see. So here we have Senegal on the 4th of April. Happy independence to Senegal. April the 4th, 1960, they got independence from France. Tanzania will celebrate their Independence Day from Britain on the 26th of April, and they had their independence on the 26th of April, 1964. Togo will also gain their independence, or will celebrate their independence on the 27th of April, 1960. And who else is here? Zimbabwe will celebrate their independence on the 18th of April, 1980. I think South Africa is, hang on, let me find South Africa here. Sierra Leone is 24th of April, 1961 from Britain. Who else is here? I think if I can locate South Africa, South Africa. Where is South Africa? Where is South Africa? South Africa, I can't find South Africa. Ha. Okay, so South Africa on the 11th of December 1931, when they were under apartheid. Okay, so South Africa, the apartheid South African government got independence on the 11th of December 1931 from Britain. Okay, but in April, okay, apartheid ended. So the month of April should be celebrated to in memory of the abolition of apartheid in Africa, in South Africa. So there you have it. Yeah, so without much ado, I'll get into the topic. Okay, Elm City, thanks for joining the stream. You finally did just some stream that into like, yeah, yeah. I have been looking for new work, so I've been home a lot of the time these days. So yeah, that's why it's currently 1 p.m. here in Melbourne, Australia. The weather has changed drastically. Okay, and yeah, today is only 16 degrees. We woke up to 10 degrees in the morning, so it is very cold for Australia. It's not yet winter. We still have about a couple of months to go, a few more days to go for winter, but it is getting cold. Yeah, so it is currently autumn. and yep. So yeah, it is currently autumn, and all right. So yeah, the stream is good. The stream is good. Let's see. So today's topic is China-Africa relationship. Okay, and the Chinese-African relationship must benefit Africa the most. Okay, or China-Africa relationship must benefit Africa more. Okay, and in this, I should add the United States as well in the hashtag. Okay, so in the hashtag, I am going to add the USA. Okay, because the USA is you know is centered around. Okay. Africa is centered around the Western economy. Okay, you have the USA, you have the Europeans, you have the Asians. Okay, mainly China and Japan, and you have Europe. Okay, these three economic giants. Okay, Europe, Asia, in the United States, including Canada, the Americas. So I'll say Canada and the United States. Okay, they influence Africa mightily. Okay, more than you can imagine. Okay, the influence that especially the U.S. has in Europe when we talk about France, Belgium, and Britain. Okay, their economic stronghold on Africa can are the reasons why Africa is in the conditions that it is at the moment. So I'm going to add USA in the hashtag. Okay, so you will see that. Okay, USA in. You'll see that. So yeah, USA is in there. All right. So there's going to be a fair bit of teaching to do today, and I am going to begin this article or this topic, okay, with a few articles that I'm going to read out. So yeah, I hope you've got your listening ears ready, and it might be. I'll try and read as fast as possible. Otherwise, this is going to be a pretty long stream since I need to comment on what I'm reading. But let's just hope that this is not the case. So yeah, I came across an article yesterday, yesterday a few days back, and I am going to share my screen. Okay, I am going to share my screen and read this to you. So, all right. So I was present to everybody. Okay, like that. Okay. So yeah, what's good, family? Thanks for joining the stream. I'll be in and out for a sec. Okay, no problem. Elm City. So yeah, this article came to my attention. Okay, and it's called. It was written on the 9th, so 2 days ago. That's Monday. Hang on. All right. I want none of that interferences. turn off all notifications. Okay, so this article came to my attention a few days ago. The DRC and China's sicko mines. Okay, why future deals should be different. Okay, so when we talk about China's relationship with Africa, it goes a long way. I mean, a long way into history. And I've read here before accounts where Egypt went to a war. The USA, in alliance with Britain and France, invaded Egypt just because Egypt wanted control of the Suez Canal. Okay, so majority of the problems in the world today are based on economics. Okay, there are a few group of people, okay, that own the wealth of this world, and everybody is playing catch up, or everybody is feeding off the crumbs that are coming from the table of these rich people. Okay, so these are the problems that affect Africa. Okay, so when you say Africa, what comes into mind for most people is poverty. Okay, poverty, naked people walking about, people walking bare feet. Okay, lack of infrastructure. Okay, dirt roads. Okay, animals, wildlife. Okay, that's all that comes in mind. Diseases, HIV/AIDS. Okay, that's all that comes to mind for most people outside of Africa. Okay, but this is misconception and miseducation, and at best media propaganda. Okay, there's a whole lot that's happening on the continent. Okay, that can rival, countries like Italy, Portugal, majority of East European countries. Okay, the economies of African countries are sharply rising, and it's very, very important that we keep abreast with all these events taking place. Okay, so especially into 2019. Okay, moving on into the future, a whole lot is going to be happening on the continent of Africa. Okay, and Africa is waking up. Okay, the sleeping giant is waking up. Okay, a whole lot of people are speaking about the unification of all African countries. Okay, the unification of Africa, Pan-Africanism. Okay, the African Union. Okay, all these things need to occur, but slowly they will occur. But at the moment, things are a bit slow. But eventually, things will take place. All right, so I will read this article very quickly, and I have a few more to read. Okay, African Sun, thanks for joining the stream. How come nobody talks about Madagascar? Madagascar, they do have. The last time I checked about Madagascar family is you know about the internet. They have, I think Madagascar has the fastest internet in Africa. So a whole lot is happening in Madagascar, but it's only because they are a little bit under the radar. But there's a whole lot happening in Madagascar. Okay, so I haven't done a stream on Madagascar yet, but I know they do have their political turmoils that they go through here and there, but it seems to be stable as well. Yeah, they did a few years ago. They did a coup d'état, and recently they had an election. So yeah, but some stories that I've heard about Madagascar doesn't entice me to say visit, but I'm hoping things get better. Things get better in Madagascar, but I know there's a lot of deforestation in Madagascar. I know they're cutting down a lot of the trees, and the Lima, which is a national all I say, attraction, national attraction or tourist attraction for Madagascar is the lemur is losing their habitat because they're cutting down the forests. So yeah, Madagascar is situated in a part of Africa where there is a lot of rain, and that supports a lot of forest. But if you cut down these forests, okay, the rains are gonna go away. Okay. One thing people don't know is that the forest is what attracts rain, or the forest is what you know creates rain. People don't understand this. But if you cut down the trees, okay, the rains go away. Okay, this is what it is. This is what it is. All right. So yeah, I'll definitely look into doing more videos about Madagascar. But I do what I do is I do news on, or I do my topics on any African country. Okay, any African country of interest, and all African countries are of my interest. So yeah, but today's topic is about the Congo and basically the entire continent of Africa. Okay, from the Congos to Egypt, to Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Senegal, Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, Togo, everywhere else in Africa. Okay, I'm gonna cover it. All right, I'm gonna cover it. So today's article, the DRC, or the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Chinese sicko mines, um, why future deals should be different. Okay, a lot of people say that China's business in Africa is by way of predatory means. I think it's further than that. It's more. That is just superficial when you look at things that way. It's not true. It's not predatory. It's it's more of the benefits. Okay, it benefits China more. Chinese business in Africa benefit China more than it does benefit Africa. Momentarily, it's benefiting China more than it is benefiting Africa. But the situation here is, or the future plan is, that Africa will eventually benefit from the business that China is doing with Africa. Okay, nobody goes into a business venture to fail. Okay, nobody goes into a business deal to fail. All right, so it is what it is. Okay, there's a lot of politics surrounding China-Africa relationship when it comes to business. Okay, there are people that are greedy. We have this term called the nepotism. Okay, the nepotism where politicians seek to benefit themselves and their families more than they benefit their own people. So yeah, and yeah, I will get into this article now. Okay, I'll get into this article now. It was confidently billed. So there's the DRC and China sicko mines. Why future deals should be different. Published for this article from Forbes Africa. Okay, published on the 13th, on the 9th of April 2019. Okay, by admin. All right. So it was confidently billed at the time as the deal of the century. The Sino-Congolais des mines, sicko mines, was the most significant investment project in Africa when it was agreed in 2007. The infrastructure agreement gave Chinese partners mining rights to cobalt and copper in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. These minerals are used in electric vehicle batteries and electronics, including smartphones and laptops. In exchange, China agreed to build much needed infrastructure projects such as urban roads, highways, and hospitals. So we know that what Africa is benefiting from the Chinese business relationship is is that China is building infrastructure. Okay, so China signs deals to gain the natural resources. Okay, and then in turn, China builds infrastructure. Okay, and then the African countries take loans as well. Okay, but these China seems to be benefiting more from the natural resources than they are benefiting from the infrastructure. So, for instance, the infrastructure being built, okay, the African countries do not have money to manage these infrastructure, so they still have to get loans from China, okay, at high percentages in interest, okay. But meanwhile, these resources being mined and taken out of Africa, okay, these companies stationed in Africa are tax exempt. They do not pay taxes. So as part of the deal, okay, because African countries owe China money, the deal was that the China will come and do business in Africa tax free. Okay. Whereas Africa keeps paying the debt owed to China at an interest or with interest. So this is the reason why it seems that like Africa is stalling, and it seems like China is using a predatory loan approach, because China is benefiting more from Africa than Africa is benefiting from China. So the purpose of this article is to re-strategize Chinese investment in Africa, where Africa benefits more, okay, or both mutually benefit. All right. So I'll go back to the article. It was confidently billed at the time as the deal of the century. The Sino-Congolese the mine, Sicko Mines, was the most significant Chinese investment project in Africa when it was agreed in 2007. The infrastructure agreement gave Chinese partners mining rights to cobalt and copper in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. These minerals are used in electric vehicles, vehicle batteries, and electronics, including smartphones and laptops. In exchange, China agreed to build much-needed infrastructure projects such as urban roads, highways, and hospitals. In addition to new infrastructure, the Sicko Mines deal was expected to provide significant boost to the DRC's economic growth. The view was that the agreed volumes of mineral production would contribute to higher levels of export, tax revenue, and inflow of US dollars. So read more. Okay, so I'll leave the links in there. You can go read. More than a decade on the Sicko Mines deal. More than a decade on, the Sicko Mines deal has not lived up to expectations. There have been infrastructure project delays as well as unexpected costs. There have also been problems associated with poor quality roads and infrastructure and inadequate environment and social impact studies. On the economic front, mineral exports from DRC have indeed risen sharply. So you see what's going on. So on the contrary, infrastructure projects are slow, but on the contrary, mineral exports from the DRC have indeed risen sharply or steeply. But sharp cyclical fluctuations show that the country is heavily reliant on both the Chinese market and the price of a few minerals. In addition, the Sicko Mines deal won exemption from taxes until infrastructure and mining loans were fully repaid. And so this is what's going on the continent. So African Sun is the animals of Africa that have the most to fear from the Chinese. Yeah, you mean the Chinese food, huh? Yeah, Chinese would literally eat anything. Okay? The Chinese have a saying they'll eat anything that points the back to the sun. So yeah, I've heard instances where people say Chinese people eat babies, basically a toddler or no, a crawling baby, because it has its back facing the sun. But anyway, those are stories for other days. Okay, by no means this is belittling any Chinese person. Okay. So here, China is benefiting hugely from the mineral extract from Africa. Okay, they haven't stopped. Okay, so from the get-go they started digging. Okay, they haven't stopped digging and exporting minerals out of the Congo. Okay, but their infrastructural work is stalling. Okay, the roads are of not good quality. Okay, but it doesn't stop them from taking what they need from Africa. Okay, at the same time, these Chinese companies are tax exempt. Okay, they are tax exempt. They're not paying taxes, whereas Africans are still paying back their loans they got from China. Okay, and they are paying at big interests. Okay, so this really is not a fair deal, right? It's not a really fair deal. And another thing of concern is China does not place environmental impacts in their books. They do not consider the environment as part of the business. Okay, so they have on ethical grounds, China's business with Africa is poor. Okay, is poor. Yeah, and traditional Chinese medicine. Yes, I know that they use the rhino horn for aphrodisiacs and herbal medicines. Okay, so yeah, and that's pretty bad. Okay, the African animals are going extinct. Okay, now back to the article. More, I've read that on the economic front, mineral exports from the DRC have indeed risen sharply, but sharp steeply, but sharp cyclical fluctuations show that the country is heavily reliant on both Chinese market and the price of few minerals. In addition, the Sycamines deal won exemption from taxes until the infrastructure mining loans were fully repaid. This means that the DRC will not receive any substantial income from the agreement in the foreseeable future. So this means that the DRC will not receive any substantial income from the agreement in the foreseeable future. So eventually, if the DRC continues with the current trend of business, okay, they will lose more than they will gain. Okay, so they will lose their land. Okay, the environment will be destroyed. They will lose their natural resources. Okay, and they'll forever be paying a debt to China. Okay, so this in so many minds, okay, seems to be predatory in nature. Okay, predatory in nature, but again, okay, it's negotiations. Okay, it's a business deal. Okay, it's a business deal. All deals should be put aside if one party is not playing the game. Okay, if one party is not playing fair, okay, you can't be. There's no way you should be allowed to be taken out of Africa these mineral resources when you haven't fulfilled your part of the deal by building infrastructure. Okay, by building infrastructure and looking after the environment. Okay, if you're not doing any of that, okay, the deal is off. All right. So this is the purpose of this article. Okay, the DRC and China's Sycamore mines, why future deals should be different. All right. So in the next deals with China, all African countries need to take note. Okay, okay, make it clear to China. Make it clear to China. Else they're just going to take advantage of you. All right. Minko, thanks for joining the stream. Thanks for joining the stream. All right. So the Seeker Mines agreement demonstrates one of the main problems with deals of this nature. It's never included any guarantee of the actual value that the Congolese population would get in exchange for the country's main sources of wealth. As we argue in a recent International Affairs article, the Seeker Mines deal provides lessons for other African countries. Future deals like this present an opportunity to change the model followed in the Sikkim mines and by most Sino-African trade relations. This has to date essentially involved China supplying value-added manufactured goods and high-skilled workers. In exchange, African countries have agreed to export mainly primary-based resource products, and African workers are hired for unskilled, low-cost tasks. So this is not a way to build wealth. Okay, if you want to build wealth, okay, you don't sell primary-based resource products. You don't do that. Okay, how to build wealth is be a producer of finished goods. Okay, logistics. Okay, this is what the West is doing. Okay, this is what the West is doing. Okay, this is what United States did from manufacturing. They shipped all the factories to China. Okay, and then United States took the job of logistics. Okay, so now there's another article where China, Africa, because Africa is rising, family. Africa is rising. Thanks for joining the stream, Niger boy. Thanks for joining the stream. Africa is rising the same way that China rose to power. Okay, and I'm very glad. One of my reasons of being excited about it, China-Africa deal or business partnership is that Africa can learn from China. Okay? Africa can learn from China, and how China rose to superpowerdom is basically, you know, learning from the United States. Okay, reverse engineering, replication, you know, emulating. This is how to learn, copying from the best. Okay, so you know, just in the last decade, or America's best export is culture. That's it, music and all that. Okay, logistic, things that are not of physical value. That's what the United States, you know, markets or exports. Things that are not of physical value, whereas things of physical value come from Africa. Okay, things of physical value come out of Africa. You have petrol, you have all the mineral wealth coming out of Africa, but yet Africa is still poor. But things are changing. Okay, things are changing gradually. Things are changing. All right, and I'll talk about that in the coming in a few minutes. I will be talking about that. So the Sikkim Mines Agreement demonstrates one of the main problems with deals of this nature. It's never included any guarantee of actual value that the Congolese population would get in exchange for the country's main source of wealth. As we argue, I've read that before, but I'll take that very quickly. As we argue in recent international affairs article, the Sikkim Mines deal provides lessons for other African countries. Future deals like these or like this present an opportunity to change the model followed in the Sikkim Mines and by most Sino-African trade relations. This has to date essentially involved China supplying value-added manufactured goods and high-skilled workers. In exchange, African countries have agreed to export mainly primary-based resource products, and African workers are hired for unskilled, low-cost tasks. It needed to be this way, so things need to change. Okay, it needn't be this way. Protecting the host country's interest. The first decade of the deal was that Chinese companies have focused their efforts on benefiting from access to valuable natural resources, but the interests of local communities have been neglected. In addition, several of the problems affecting the building of infrastructure have arisen because quality control responsibility was assigned to the same two Chinese companies responsible for execution. These were China Railway Engineering Company and Sino Hydro, a large state-owned hydropower and engineering company. If I'm correct, the Sino Hydro is involved in building the Renaissance Dam in Ethiopia. This highlights the potential trap. This highlights the potential trap of these deals. The level of contribution to development depends to a great extent on the ability of inexpert local institutions to manage complex multilateral projects. Okay, so again, this has to do with the educational level of African government. Okay, so what they usually talk about is bringing in experts. Okay, bringing in experts from overseas. When Africans themselves are educated enough to manage their own affairs, they still have to bring in experts from overseas to manage these projects. Okay, so these are some of the reasons why Africa is lagging at the moment. Okay, this is the reason why development in Africa is stalling. There is a solution to this. Host countries should create committees of experts, if necessary, with regional and international support. Alternatively, they could contract independent specialized consultants to guarantee that national interests are satisfied. Okay. I'm just having a little break here. I wanted to share the stream with my group. Share this with my group. A moment, family. Chiefdryno is live, family. Please join me. Yeah, so I've just shared the stream with my family. All right, so again, I'll go back to here. Okay, JPV, thanks for joining the stream. I'm a bit early, which is good for you guys. So I'll take it back. I'll take it from here. Okay. This highlights the potential trap of these deals. The levels of contribution to development depends to a great extent on the ability of inexpert local institutions to manage complex multilateral projects. This is a solution. There is a solution to this. Host countries should create committees of experts, if necessary, with regional and international support. Alternatively, they could contract independent specialized consultants to guarantee that national interests are satisfied. Okay, so here again, for Africa to do something on its own, it has to involve international bodies. But there's no way that you hear any development in Europe. Okay, there's nowhere you will hear any infrastructural development or economic development or anything in Europe that would involve an African country overseeing it. You don't get that. But why is it that only in Africa that Africa needs to be treated like a child? Okay, Africa needs to be treated like a child that it will get the best, best of the deal, or the best part of the deal. This is really sad. Okay, this is really sad. So again, they made sure they highlighted that, okay, the inexpert of local institutions to manage complex multilateral projects. Okay, this is Africa for you. All right, this is Africa for you. Okay, I'll read another article later on, which is about this. Okay, the education in Africa. Okay, education period. Okay, education period does not create wealth. Okay, education does not create wealth. If you think going to school and graduating and finding yourself a good job will create you wealth, you're lying to yourself. Okay, you're lying to yourself. You're not going to create any wealth. You're just going to end up working for another person. Okay, businesses create wealth. Business owners create wealth. Okay, not people going to school. Okay, going to school will not necessarily give you wealth. If anything, you end up paying debts. You'll be paying your tuition fees. Okay, your loans, your university fees. You'll be paying that. Okay, you'll be paying that. How is that going to create wealth for you? Okay, so this is the situation of Africa where every entity outside Africa considers Africa as a child. That a child or people of inexpert, okay, to manage their own affairs. Okay, basically that's what it is. There is a solution to this. Host countries should create committees of experts if necessary for regional and international support. Alternatively, they could contract independent specialized consultants to guarantee that national interests are satisfied. So read more. Ford and IBM among quartet in Congo Cobalt blockchain project. So there's a whole lot of business in the Congo. Okay, siphoning the mineral wealth out of Congo. Okay, but the people of Congo, okay, Congolese people are not benefiting at all. Okay, they are not benefiting at all from it. Instead of negotiating with a unique consortium of companies, these teams would participate in the development of a public procurement process to award the project to the most competitive bidder. Additionally, the committees would be in charge of monitoring implementations of the contract. This could include extraction works, quality of infrastructure, compliance with environmental and social standards. Okay, so learning through smaller pioneer initiatives. China has shown that it is ready to take risks. China has shown that it is ready to take risks and engage in enormous African infrastructure development projects, and that is prepared to do this even when Western donors are not willing to allocate funds. Okay, so this is one of the reasons why I am in favor of the China Africa deal. Okay, because a lot of the business venture of the West, okay, does not include uplifting Africans. Okay, the U.S. foreign policies do not include Africa being economically self-dependent or economically independent. Okay, the European deals, okay, they just want Africans to be beggars. This is the whole agenda of the Western countries. Okay, they want a massive consumer group of people. Okay, they want the African continent to be consumers, not producers. So this is what it is. You can't build wealth if you're a consumer. Okay, so they want a perpetual underclass, okay, in Africa. That's what they want. But China comes in, okay. China comes in and change the game, okay. So China bringing infrastructure and that, okay, is changing the game. So this is what it is here, okay. China has shown it is ready to take the risks and engage in enormous African infrastructure development projects, and that is prepared to do this even when Western donors are not willing to allocate funds. It's always the case. It is always the case. To some extent, China's favorable attitude towards deals such as Sycomine's agreement is based on the same logic as the infrastructure loans received from Japan in 1980s. These were mutually beneficial. They fostered Japan's development and they were very lucrative for Japanese firms. So yeah, I don't know this being mutually beneficial. They were not too beneficial for African countries, okay, but they were lucrative for Japanese firms, okay, evidently. So fast forward 1980s, okay, fast forward 30 years ago, okay, 30, 39, nearly 40 years ago, okay, okay, you don't see any benefits from these kind of deals, okay. This is why the future deals should be different, okay, future deals should be different. But there are many potential complications with multi-billion-dollar resource-backed credits offered by China to African countries recovering from conflict. So yeah, it is what it is here. With this in mind, African countries could take a more incremental approach. They could foster development through a process of gradual reforms implemented through several pioneering small deals. Okay, so it's going to take Africa to take baby steps to grow right now. Okay, right now, but things are changing. Okay, eventually things will change. Eventually things will change, because we know this, because China was like that initially as well. China was like that initially. There was a time where even Kenya had more money than China itself. Kenya, it was richer than China at one point in time. Okay, even Ghana is as small as Ghana is. Okay, Ghana had an economy as big as the United States back in the 60s. When you look at a country like Mauritius, a very tiny island country, okay, with just about 40 kilometers across and 60 kilometers north to south, okay, and having a GDP greater than Ghana, okay, things are bound to change. Okay, things are bound to change, or GDP greater than a lot of European countries as well. So things will definitely change and in favor of Africa. Okay. So yeah, taking baby steps. Okay. So read more. Is China really helping Africa? Okay, so this would be topic for another day. All right. Changes that are needed. Okay. Any new agreement should include precise objectives and financial resources to guarantee training and upskilling for workers. In parallel, the terms of the agreement should create the conditions for the transfer of know-how in a way that helps local companies to move to higher value added activities. So yeah, the article that I'm going to read also um, alludes to that. Okay, so the local companies need to move to higher value added activities. Okay, not subsistence farming. All right. So yeah, how to basically, this article is teaching a lot. Okay, it's really teaching a lot. African governments could take into account China's experience. So this is what I was talking about. African governments should take into account China's experience. The Chinese government decided that in some strategic sectors, such as the automotive sector, foreign investors had to create a joint venture with a Chinese partner to enter the market. And so basically, if you want to do business in China, you need to be in joint partnership with a Chinese company. You can't just go and start doing business in China. Okay. But in Africa, the story is different. It's free grab for all. Free for all, basically. People just come in there and just grab whatever they want to grab and take away from Africa, and not give back, or give back very little. Okay. So this strategy has contributed to the emergence of several competitive domestic firms and national champions. Finally, as economic diversification prompts an increase in GDP per capita, additional taxes collected from extracting industries could be invested in other economic activities to promote development. The model has the potential to enable projects that would otherwise be impossible in fragile and conflict-affected African economies. But the Sycamores deal shows that it is necessary to address particular changes or challenges if China's new financing schemes are to accelerate development in Africa. All right, so I'll take that again. Okay. The model has the potential to enable projects that would otherwise be impossible in fragile and conflict-affected African economies. But the Sycamores deal shows that it's necessary to address particular challenges if Africa's new financing schemes are to accelerate development in Africa. Okay, so this article from Andonai Maiza Laret, Professor, Department of Applied Economics, UPV, and EHU, Universidad del País Vasco. I'm not going to try and read that. Yep. So yeah, there you go. All right, there you go. So this can apply to all African countries. Okay, this can apply to all African countries, and this article makes me question why are all these countries heavily invested in Africa, and African countries are not invested in other African countries. Okay, so this took me to researching on the African Development Bank. Okay, the African Development Bank gives loans to African countries for infrastructure developments and other needs. Okay, and when, as the name suggests, the African Development Bank, okay, is not solely, it is managed by Africans, but there are other international bodies that affect the situations or the affairs of this African Development Bank, i.e., you have the United States, you have Britain, you have Germany, you have Japan, okay, you have India. All these countries make decisions on behalf of the African Development Bank. Okay, and I'll read a few of the another article concerning this. Okay, but Africa is taking, where is this? What's this article? Africa will take China's place. Africa will take China's place as the next factory of the world. Okay, I'll read that in a bit. Okay, it's an old article. I'll read that in a bit, but I'll read this one here. This article from Big Think: How China is transforming Africa into the next factory of the world. China is investing gargantuan amount of money in Africa, but it's leaving many in the global community concerned as to why. In the past few years, Chinese investment in Africa has exploded, while the US currently has. So bear in mind, family, okay, this is what it is. Okay, this thing here, okay, you need to really pay attention to this. Okay, US currently has $58 billion worth of investment in Africa. Okay, the more reason why the US needs to send or needs to protect their assets in Africa. Okay, hence why they have military bases in Africa. Okay, okay, this is part of the US foreign policy concerning Africa. Okay, and China has invested $40 billion. Okay, the US investments in Africa have been dropping over time. Consider the fact that in 2014, the US pledged to invest $14 billion in Africa over the next decade. China pledged to invest $175 billion in the same time period, dwarfing the US commitment. Unlike the US, China's investments mainly take the form of loans for infrastructure development. In contrast, the US investment focused. Okay, so pay attention to this one, family. Pay attention to this. In contrast, the US investment is focused on aid programs, primarily healthcare and education. Okay, so basically the aid program is to get you food to eat, okay, and you have healthcare to sustain you to have a healthy life, and educate you to keep you being mentally enslaved or not to do things for yourself. This is the US government's Okay, the U.S. government investment in Africa. Okay, the U.S. investment in Africa, and I'll do a separate stream on this. Okay, the West. This is the best nature. Okay, of the Western investment in Africa. Okay, is only to sustain Africans. That's it, but not to uplift Africans from poverty. Okay, not to uplift Africans from poverty. Many Africans welcome China's investment into much needed infrastructure. So infrastructure is what Africa needs the most. All these educated people, the education that US pays for, okay, all these educated people end up moving to the USA anyway. They end up moving to the United States anyway. Okay, so this is what I'm saying, family. The aid doesn't take anyone anywhere. Aid won't take you anywhere. Aid won't take you anywhere. Basically, if you have a beggar on the street, okay, and every day the beggar makes $100 a day, the beggar is going to continue sitting there expecting handouts. Okay, but if you build infrastructure, okay, and you put this person here to improve himself, okay, obviously the person is going to do better. Okay, so you know, it is what it is. All right, it is what it is. So in contrast, I'll take that again, okay, because this is very, very important. This is very, very important, and everyone needs to bear this in mind. Unlike the US, China's investments mainly take the form of loans for infrastructure development. In contrast, US investment is focused on aid programs. Aid programs, basically handouts, and handouts don't lead to anything. Okay, primarily healthcare and education, and also the education. Africans getting educated, they follow the bait to move to the United States, to Europe. Okay, okay, and go develop those countries. Okay, so the brain drain, the brain drain. Many Africans welcome China's investments into much needed infrastructure, but it's not clear how much of a benefit African nations are seeing. One major issue is that many countries are becoming excessively indebted to China. Kenya, for instance, has $50 billion of debt, 72% of which comes from China. In Senegal, highways, industrial parks, and other infrastructure projects are being funded by $1.6 billion loan source in France. Djibouti has received $1.1 billion in loan to upgrade its seaport and to build a railway to Addis Ababa, a water pipeline from Ethiopia, and a new airport. Not only are these loans greater than what many countries can afford to repay, much of their values goes straight back to China. Tim Wegenest, sorry if I butchered that name, the author of a report on Chinese mining in Africa by the German Institute of Global and Area Studies, stated that it's more or less safe to say that Chinese companies employ less local labor than other companies because they bring over many Chinese workers, and when they develop local infrastructure, they provide countries with loans which are being used to pay for it, which is then constructed by Chinese companies and Chinese labor. So basically, China is making 100% profit. China is making 100% profit. So China gives Africa loans to build infrastructure, and then they employ Chinese people to man this infrastructure. So you have at least 99.9% of the profit going straight back to China. Okay, so people hold up the Chinese and Djiboutian flags before the launch of 1,000 unit housing development funded by Chinese company. So yeah, there we go. So these are some children from Djibouti. Furthermore, the new infrastructure is designed to enable Chinese corporations to extract natural resources such as minerals and oil. So it is what it is. Okay, China builds infrastructure, Africans give them the natural resources. Okay. On the other hand, with Europe, okay. On the other hand, with Europe, it's Europeans just give aid. Okay, they give aid, they don't build any infrastructure, and they take away the natural resources. So yeah, unfortunately, many of these ventures fail to meet regulatory, environmental, and ethical standards. Chinese companies have been accused of illegal mining in Ghana, corruption in Angola, Guinea, and others, environmental degradation in Chad, and generally poor working conditions in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Chinese companies have been linked to the use of child labor to extract cobalt for smartphones. Nigeria, where Boko Haram bases their operations, paid $470 million for the development of a grid of CCTV cameras to improve security in the capital of Abuja. The Chinese company ZTE developed the CCTV cameras, but many were found to be completely non-functioning. If ZTE sounds familiar, it's because President Trump recently lifted a ban that prevented US companies from selling electronic components to ZTE after it was discovered that they were illegally exporting technology to North Korea and Iran. As a token of their growing relationship, China funded the development of the African Union headquarters based in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. This development also included an IT system, according to Le Monde, allegedly contained. So allegedly, all right. It doesn't mean it's true, okay. But there's something that I say, okay, if there is smoke, there is fire, all right. Where there's smoke, there's fire, okay. So this development also included an IT system, according to Le Monde, allegedly contained a backdoor that was sending the African Union's data to Shanghai. China's growing presence in Africa is essentially an effort to transform Africa into the next factory of the world. Although China currently holds this title, its rapidly growing economy is likely to lift its citizens out of poverty and into roles that are more service oriented, like the US, and less based on manufacturing. So yeah, Africa is going to be the next manufacturing giant of the world. Okay, the people are there. Okay, Africa already has the population for that. Okay, the population for that, and you have China has more billionaires in the world than anywhere else. Okay, you have a country of 1.5 billion people. Okay, and you have 100 million people that are millionaires. Like that's staggering. All right. That is astronomical. Yeah. So, what was this? Perceptions of China in Africa. So this was a poll done. Okay, 36 countries. You have 63% of people in Africa said China is doing a great deal for Africa. Okay, so China has great favor with Africans. 63% of Africans agree on a positive note. Okay, top factors contributing to a positive image of China: investment in infrastructure and business development. Okay, business development. The negative image of China is poor quality of products. So, but China is changing. Like a lot of the products that are coming from China, okay, are of high quality these days. Your iPhones are made in China. What are you talking about? There's no single electronic that you open that you not see made in China. And China manufactures a whole lot of everything that we have today. Everything, everything. Okay, China manufactures everything. So the quality, so that's the only negative image of China, poor quality of products. But that's mentality is old. Okay, because China is now sending rockets to space. China is now sending rockets to space. So I mean, the level of quality, okay, is arguable. Okay, you can argue about that. Okay, but it's not always true. But yeah, so China is a somewhat a very positive influence in their country. Okay, 63% average of all countries. Okay, so here in red you have greater than 80%. You know, and then 31 to 40%. Okay, agree. Okay, so what you have here in Kenya. Okay, in Kenya, majority of people think China is doing a great deal for them, especially when you look at the railway line that was made from Mombasa to Nairobi. I mean, which has really helped a lot of Kenyans. Okay, you would have a positive image of China. All right. So source from Afrobarometer. Okay. And despite the lack of regulations from Chinese investments, many Africans see this as a positive thing. A survey conducted in a variety of African countries found that 63% of Africans see China's influence positively. According to the survey, this positive feeling is mainly due to China's investment in infrastructure. While China is seen favorable in Africa, the survey also uncovered that the U.S. development model was still the most popular. Okay, so because the U.S. has been in Africa doing that aid thing for so long. Okay, giving money to politicians and stuff like that, giving aid. Okay, one thing you should know about aid, okay, is that when you donate some money, okay, about 90% of the money end up in private pockets. 90% end up in private pockets. Okay. When you have, just because it's aid, it's free money, basically. That's what aid donations, that's what it is. There's no consequence to it. Okay, so 90% of the money ends up in private pockets. Okay, and only 10% goes into developmental, projects. Okay, this is why when people ask, "Oh, Africans had so much in donations and whatnot." Okay, this is what it is. Okay, this is what it is. Right? When you have African heads of states living in palaces and having Bentleys and private jets and whatnot, having mansions in Europe, in Switzerland and whatnot, sending the children overseas, okay, and paying $250,000 in just rent alone. $250,000 in rent. That is just absurd. Okay. You can imagine how the people feel when this is happening to them. Okay. And all this is because there's no consequence. There's absolutely no consequence. Okay. And the Western government support these kind of ideals of these African countries. Okay. They support it. So while China is seen as favorable in Africa, the survey also uncovered that the U.S. development model was still the most popular, with China's development model coming in second. However, considering the vast disparity in how much each country is investing in Africa, it may not matter which economic development model is more popular, so much as which model is put in place. Okay, so that was the end of that article. Okay. And I was going to read that Africa will take China's place as the next factory of the world. I'm not going to read all of it, family, but just a little bit, okay, of why I think that aid, giving people aid, will not uplift them from poverty. Okay, it's infrastructure. Infrastructure is what's going to uplift people from poverty. Building factories, building processing plants are what is going to help Africa rise out of poverty, not giving Africa aid. Okay, so this is what China is doing. Okay, so as the Chinese population are moving from a lower class to a middle class and upper class, okay, they're gonna ship all their factories to Africa, okay, which will be really great for Africa because a lot of Africans live under $1 a day, okay, and that used to be the story of China a few years back, okay, but China now has produced so many millionaires, okay, so many millionaires. So yeah, it's the whole world is gearing towards Africa basically. Okay, all the manufacturing jobs are leaving here in Australia, going to Asia. They're going to Asia where there's people power and they pay people less. All right, people pay people less. So this article is from Irene Yuan Sun. Okay, on November 7th, 2017. Africa will take China's place as the next factory of the world. So a separate article, separate topic there for another day. But I'll read that. Okay, I'll read a little bit. I'm only 30, but I personally witnessed a time when China's now car-clogged streets were full of bicycles instead. Such and before when I used to watch the BBC News when it showed China, it was a lot of bicycles. They used to you see a lot of bicycles, on the roads. Okay, that used to be the BBC's intro when it do something about China, but it's not the same anymore, is it? So I'm only 30, but I personally witnessed a time when China's now car-clogged streets were full of bicycles instead. Such has been the rapidity of China's transformation, sparked by the rise of factory China. In the quarter centuries since I first sat in that car, China has gone from producing 22% of global manufacturing output to 25%. Over the time, China's GDP grew 30-fold and 750 million people were lifted out of poverty. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that you have half the population of China lifted out of poverty? That's just crazy, right? That's just crazy. And we're talking of 1.5 billion people. 1.5 billion people, and half the population is lifted out of poverty. So you can see where China is going. Okay, the most ever achieved in a single period in the history of the world. China went from being poorer than Kenya, Lesotho, and Nigeria to rivaling the United States for the title of largest economy in the world. I think the largest economy in the world is actually the USA, and Japan being second, and I think China is third. The last time I looked at it, so I don't know what's changed now. Okay, JPV, Rwanda has a big Chinese clothing factory. Yeah, thanks for that, JPV. Yeah, yeah, and see, this is what's happening. Okay, China is now going to bring their factories into Africa. Okay, because they're gonna get cheap labor in Africa, right? Cheap labor, which is good for Africa. I mean, from living on $1 a day to living on $5 a day, I'll go for living on $5 a day than living on $1 a day if China brings their factories to Africa. So yeah, but in all these things, you must make sure that Africa is getting the best part of the deal. Okay. So yeah, Africa is the future, and evidently this is what it is. Okay. So, but as impressive as these statistics are, to me, the real sign of development are all the small everyday occurrences that can only delight people who have known life without them. My favorite spirit is no longer considered a rare treat, just a mundane soft drink. People now stand in lines at the airport instead of jostling one another relentlessly. Stores now provide toilet paper in their bathrooms, and no one thinks it's anything special to ride in a car anymore, as these changes were unleashed by China becoming the current factory of the world. I grew up in the United States and then went to live in another part of the world. After college, I taught 8th and 9th graders in a village in Namibia. Okay. This is very, very important, family. Pay attention to what she's going to say here. Okay. As these changes are unleashed by China becoming the current factory of the world, I grew up in the United States and then went to live in another part of the world. After college, I taught 8th and 9th graders in a village in Namibia in Southwest Africa. During a staff meeting, the principal of my school strong-armed me into running the school shop. Having no clue as to what I should be selling there, I asked at the end of my class if any students would like to go with me in my car to the wholesaler an hour away to buy things for the shop. A burst of shouts was accompanied by an eruption of arms in the air because everybody wanted to ride in a car. Every single kid wanted to go. More than a few trailed me home, begging me to pick them up. I thought it was funny and familiar. I knew this longing to sit in a car and the novelty of actually doing so. Cars and Sprite and toilet paper may sound like very materialistic ways of defining development, but people who have these things tend to forget how much they are marketers of modernity. To those who don't, Americans and Europeans can be casual about sitting in a car, but to my child self in China and to the students in Namibia, it was a thrill. The appearance of such material goods in a society heralds the possibility that people can adopt new selves, new ways of being in the world as consumers and producers in the modern global economy. So, as a volunteer teacher, I was responsible for 5 classes of math and English in public school in rural Africa. Nothing is less controversial than the inherent goodness of teaching children and the notion that an educated citizenry is essential for a country's development. But several months into my job, when I was brutally honest with myself, I could see no connection between my daily work and the chance that these bigger transformations would occur. Okay, most of my pupils were children of subsistence farmers, and the vast majority of them would become subsistence farmers themselves. Some days, the absurdity of what I was doing wouldn't hit me. I was teaching irregular English verb conjugations to future subsistence farmers living in an arid plain where no one spoke English in everyday life. I spent a year bearing witness to the things that are wrong and unfair in our world today. Children dealing with the brunt of HIV/AIDS, environmental degradation, poverty, and I had nothing to offer. Okay, so I'll end this article here, right? Basically, what she was saying is that, okay, so coming back to that article where I was reading about the U.S. investment. Okay, the United States invests. What was that? $58 billion. Okay, what is this? B1 for life. Thanks for joining the stream. China is trying to take over Africa from all angles, marrying African women, teaching Chinese language in African schools. That's right. Yeah, B1 for life. It is true. I mean, yeah, it's wherever I say this. Okay, when civilizations meet, okay, all these things, okay, people mix. Okay, people exchange ideas, languages mix, stuff like that. Before you realize there's a new dialect of Chinese in Africa. It will become the Chinese African Creole. Okay, everything changed. Okay, this is evolution. Essentially, this is what evolution is. There is already a population of I think in on the Swahili coast, it would be Mozambique. I'm not too sure, either Mozambique or Tanzania. Okay, there was a Chinese, because Chinese people have been doing business with Africa for a long time. There was a time where shipwrecked on the coast of Africa, and these Chinese people ended up staying there. Okay, so they have a Chinese African mixed population already on the continent of Africa. All right, and now the Chinese women, because of the economic upliftment of China, okay, a lot of women are marrying late. Um, so, and also because of China's one-child policy, it's created more men than women. Okay, so there are not enough women in China to go around for the men. So the Chinese men are importing African brides. Okay, can you believe that they're importing African brides? So a lot of these Chinese people also come to Africa and find wives. So it is what it is. Okay, it is what it is. Whenever civilizations clash, okay, people mix. So it is what it is. But what I was talking about is the U.S. government, you know, funds or invest $58 billion into what? Into primary healthcare and education. Okay, primary healthcare and education is not going to build a nation. It's not going to lift the nation from poverty. What it's going to do is sustain these people, okay, give them good health, give them good education so that they become slaves, good slaves. Basically, that's it. Okay, if anything, it's going to cause the brain drain. Okay, it's still $50 billion, okay, is invested into Africa to cause the brain drain, where these educated Africans don't have any work to do in Africa. They have to leave Africa anyway to go back to the West and contribute to the West. Okay, this is what it is. This is what upsets me so much, that people don't understand that. Even people say, "Oh, U.S. is giving $58 billion to Africa." It's a ploy. This is a scheme, an obvious scheme, an obvious scheme. An obvious scheme. Aid does not uplift any country. No country has gained economic empowerment through aid. It's infrastructure. Okay. When you look at China as a model, okay, infrastructure is what's uplifted China. Okay, the US, okay, Europeans, all these superpowers moved their factories into China. And what the best China did was reverse engineer these industries, okay, and build their own. Okay, that was a smart thing done by China. But if China were to be dependent on the aids and the loans, and not even loans, basically aids, if it remained to be dependent on those aid, they wouldn't advance at all. So that shipwreck was hundreds of years ago in Kenya, and it was only one ship. It had no impact on the mixing of that area. Right, okay, but there is actually another one that occurred a few hundred years ago, actually, JPV. I'm not too sure. I think I read it many years ago, but it occurred many years ago, even before European expansion. Okay, before European exploration, before the 1600s or 1400s. Okay, so yeah, so you should look into that. Okay, you should look into that. I came across that when I was doing some genetic studies. Okay, I was doing some genetic studies. So when you look at all throughout East Africa, there's a great deal of Chinese blood. There's a great deal of Chinese blood amongst East Africans. Okay, a great deal of Chinese blood amongst East Africans. Okay, that's why when I did my DNA test, okay, because I'm part Rwandan. My family come from Rwanda. I do have Chinese blood. I do have Chinese blood. Tyru, thanks for joining the stream. So heard China is on verge of seizing Kenyan port due to unpaid loans. Those are propaganda, brother. it's all propaganda news. Okay, it's propaganda news. So yeah, it's not per se seizing the port. It's probably privatization or or restructuring or something like that of that sort. But China is not going to seize anything from Africa. Basically, they're not going to seize anything. China has enough money. Okay, China has enough money to build a new port. Why would China seize an old rusty port when it can build a new one? So yeah. So these kind of news, they just news headlines. Okay, they propaganda, right? Propaganda. The wreck in Kenya was about 700 years ago. Oh, was it? Okay. Right, right. But yeah, I remember that there's actually a documentary, JPV. There's actually a documentary you can have a look at. All right. So yeah, look at that. I saw this documentary a while ago. Okay, and you see all these people in that part of Africa. They look very mixed, African Chinese. Okay, and even in India, there is a population of allegedly slaves taken to India, and they were meant to be sent to China, but they ended up forming a community in India. They're called the Sidi people. So they look very, very African. I'm surprised that a few times that I've walked in town, people meet me and ask if I'm from India. That's a joke, right? That's a joke. But majority of people think I'm from Mauritius, which Mauritius is mainly 60% Indian and 23% African. So basically, Mauritians are mixed African and Indian, and I think 2% European and a little percent Chinese. So yeah, the majority of people think I'm from Mauritius, or a few people think no or see me as someone from like Morocco and stuff like that. So yeah. Chaotic Storm, thanks for joining the stream. Africa should leverage their positions as whole, not separate countries. That's what's getting us. They need us, but they know they can take advantage of us separately. Yeah, you're right, brother. You're right. Um, that's the reason why the African Union is in full flight. Okay, the Pan Africanism. Okay, the global unification of everyone of African descent. Okay, this stream is going to be quite long. Okay, there's a whole lot to talk about. There's a whole lot to talk about, but I'll try and move as fast as possible. But again, I'd like to point it out that the U.S. Okay, U.S. is investing $58 billion into Africa. Okay, it only goes into primarily healthcare and education. Okay, and my concern is the education. Okay, what are they educating these people? The Africa has no no aerospace engineering companies, no Boeing plants in Africa, but then Africans are studying aeronautic engineering. Okay, Africans are studying aerospace engineering. Okay, so these graduates or students of these faculties are going to find their way into the West. My dad studied marine navigation. Okay, and he furthered his education here in Australia, Tasmania. He got his master's in navigation to become a captain. Okay, that kind of job doesn't exist in Ghana. That kind of job doesn't exist in Ghana. Only exists here in the West. So this is the brain drain, and this is the reason why we ended up here in Australia. Because my dad got a job in Singapore, where a very, very profitable company called Tidewater in Singapore, very, very powerful shipping company. Okay, and that got us a ticket to come to Australia. All right. So these education in Africa do not benefit Africa. So basically, the US is investing in Africa in gaining back from the people resource. Okay, so you have the Nigerian doctors, all these people moving to the United States. Okay, moving to the United States. Well, you have Watermeyer studying aeronautics engineering. Okay, he studied that in China. He comes back to Ghana. There's no aeronautic engineering company in Ghana. Okay, the last I mean airplane Ghana had, okay, was a DC-10 that has now been turned into a restaurant. It has now been turned into a restaurant where Watermeyer took his new girlfriend, what's her name, Trudy, to have lunch. That's the best. That's the best value. Okay, um, the aviation in Ghana could give Watermeyer when it comes to jobs. So now Watermeyer would have to find work in Europe or in China or in the United States. It is what it is. So you're investing $58 billion in Africa just to gain people resource. That's it. Okay. But China has pledged to invest $175 billion in the next decade. Okay. All going into infrastructure. Okay. All going into infrastructure. When you look at Addis Ababa now, okay, all the developmental projects, okay, the infrastructure, the light rail, all these things were funded by China, not funded by the United States, because it's a ploy. The United States and the Western government have this ploy mentality, okay, that they only want people resources out of Africa. They only want natural resources out of Africa, and they don't want to give anything back. They want a perpetual underclass of people who will be consumers. That's it. Okay, but China is changing the game. Okay, on a positive note. Okay, China is changing the game. So basically, what was that article that I was talking about? So basically, this person here, okay, Irene Yuan Swan, who wrote this article. Okay, she was saying that she was a volunteer teacher. Okay, responsible for classes of math and English in public school. Okay, ninth and what was it, eighth and ninth grade. Okay, teaching them English. Okay, teaching them English and mathematics. Okay, which would be no benefit, which would be of no benefit to the Africans, because they're going to end up being subsistence farmers. They're not going to implement that knowledge to do anything with it. Okay, so this is the education system, even of the West themselves. Okay, you do not build wealth by going to school. Okay, businesses build wealth, infrastructure build wealth. Okay, it is what it is. All right, it is what it is. So the footnote here: Africa today is not defined by poverty. It is characterized by promise and optimism. Okay, I butchered that. Okay, Africa today is not defined by poverty. It is characterized by promise and optimism. Okay, there's another footnote. The rise of manufacturing is not an altogether happy story. Up close, it's often ugly. Okay, so there's the entire length of the article. It's pretty lengthy. I'm not going to read all of it, but maybe another day I would. Africa has the chance not only to repeat the sort of industrialization that has come before, but to improve on it. So Africa has the chance to do better than the Western countries. Okay, so Africa needs great direction. All right. So yeah, what's here? JPV, Miss Trudy, my wife, and I met up with her last January in Nairobi. Yeah, JPV, I saw that video. JPV. Yeah, Miss Trudy, you were on the street with Miss Trudy. Yeah, yeah, very nice video, JPV. Yeah. So yeah, basically this is what here. Okay, let's have a look at it. The next factory of the world, how Chinese investment is reshaping Africa. Okay, Irene Yuan Sun, Harvard Business Review Press. Okay, so you can read that. All right. What's it? Sudanese and Chinese workers installed machines at the White Nile sugar factory in Eld Dewayne, March 3rd, 2012. So this is what China is doing in Africa, family. This is what China is doing in Africa. You don't see Americans doing this. You don't see Europeans doing this. This is what China is doing. Okay, this is what China is doing. Employees work on a manufacturing line at a textile factory in Nairobi. Okay, so this is what China has done. So look at all these Africans with jobs. Look at all these Africans with jobs. Yeah, the argument is that they're being paid $2 a day or whatnot, but it's better than nothing, family. This is better than nothing. Better than being on the street and begging. These people here now have regular income coming in. Okay, they know that they can afford to look after their family because they have regular work coming in. You see, so this is what economic development is all about. But if you're giving people aid, giving them food aid, and 90% of the money goes into the pockets of politicians, you're not doing anything. Okay, you're basically throwing money to the wall. All right, so I'll end it on that one. I'll end it on that one. So yeah. In all this development, the question comes to mind there: where is the African Development Bank? Okay, and I at the start of the stream, I was talking about the African Development Bank. Okay, where is it? You know, Zimbabwe was looking for loan a few months ago. Zimbabwe was looking for loan under the new president, and no financial institution wanted to give them a loan, and the African Development Bank came in and gave Zimbabwe a loan about, I think, $600 million. Okay, so this is the African Development Bank. Okay, the African Development Bank Group, AfDB, or Banque Afrique de Développement, BAD, what a name for it, right? BAD, is a multilateral development finance institution. The AfDB was founded in 1964 and comprises three entities: the African Development Bank, the African Development Fund, and the Nigeria Trust Fund. The AfDB's mission is to fight poverty and improve living conditions on the continent through promoting the investment of public and private capital in projects and programs that are likely to contribute to the economic and social development of the region. The AfDB is a financial provider to African governments and private companies investing in regional member countries, so RMC. While it was originally headquartered in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, the bank's headquarters moved to Tunisia in 2003 due to the Ivorian Civil War, before returning in September 2014, basically after the Ivorian Civil War. So a little bit of the history of the African Development Bank. Okay, following the end of the colonial period in Africa, a growing desire for more unity within the continent led to the establishment of draft charters. One of the establishment was the Organization of African Unity, established in 1963, later replaced by the African Union, and for a regional development bank. So to promote the unity, okay, the conception, not the inception, the conception of the African Union, the union of all African countries, okay, back in the 60s, okay, what we will call Pan-Africanism, okay, was the African Organization of African Unity, or the AU, and a regional development bank, okay. And this regional development bank will oversee infrastructural development and what else? Infrastructural development, period. Okay, and promoting trade. Okay, trade. That was the word I was looking for. Trade. So in intra-continental trade. Okay, so these things will eventually bring Africa to become a union, or bring all Africa together. Okay, through trade. And the 32nd AU summit, okay, was all about trade. Okay, was all about trade. And I have an article here from Egypt. Okay, an article here from Egypt that I'll read in a minute, after reading to you the history of of the African Development Bank. Okay. So yeah, a draft accord was submitted to the top African officials, then to the Conference of Finance Ministers on the establishment of the African Development Bank. This conference was convened by the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa in Khartoum. So that would be in 1963. Sudan from 31st July to 4th of August. It was here that the agreement establishing the African Development Bank, AfDB, was co-signed by 23 African governments on 4th of August 1963. The agreement came into force on the 10th of September 1964. Okay, I think if I'm right, it was during the same period the AFCON as well was established. Okay, the AFCON is the Federation of African Football, or African Cup of Nations. Okay, so the African Cup of Nations was also formed in Khartoum. Okay, in 1963. Okay, in Sudan. Okay, back in the day, there was no South Sudan, there was no North Sudan. It was just Sudan. Okay, and Khartoum was the capital. Okay. So yeah, this is the history of it. The inaugural meeting of the Board of Governors of the bank was held from 4th to 7th of November 1964 in Lagos, Nigeria. The bank's headquarters opened in Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire in March 1965, and the bank's operations commenced on July 1966. From February 2003 onwards, the bank operated from its temporary relocation agency in Tunisia, owing to the prevailing political conflict in Cote d'Ivoire at the time. The bank was able to return to its original headquarters in Abidjan in late 2003 once the political crisis was over. By June 2015, over 1,500 staff had returned to the bank's Abidjan headquarters out of the more than 1,900 total staff components at the bank. Although originally only African countries were able to join the bank, since 1982, it has allowed the entry of non-African countries as well. So as it is, family, okay, nothing Africa does is without European or American influence or foreign influence. Okay, so everybody wants in. Everybody wants in because they know the growing potential of Africa. They know the wealth of Africa. They know the worth of Africa. Okay, so everybody wants a piece of it. Okay. So this idea here was conceptualized or conceived by Africans. Okay, but in 1982, so for 20 years, okay, the African Development Bank functioned on their own. So something happened in the 80s. Okay, these organizations were all infiltrated. Okay, by foreign entities. Okay, but in 2019, okay, a lot of these things are brought to light. Okay, so although originally only African countries were able to join the bank, since 1982, it has allowed the entry of non-African countries as well. Since its founding, AfDB has financed 2,885 operations for a total of $47.5 billion. So Africa's got money, family. Africa's got money. Look at this money, $47.5 billion, almost as much as the United States has invested into African aid. Okay, in 2003, it received an AAA rating from the major financial rating agencies and had a capital of $32 billion. Okay, so yeah. So at current in 2003, as of 2003, okay, the African Development Bank had $32 billion in its coffers. Okay, $32 billion. So it's all speculations now how much is currently in its coffers. Okay. So yeah. So here we have the management control. So we have the unit of account. So it's XUA. Okay. The functions. So I'll read a bit of the functions. The primary function of the AfDB is making loans and equity investment for socioeconomic advancement of the RMC, which was here, if I can remember, regional member countries. Okay, RMC, regional member countries. Second, the bank provides technical assistance for development projects and programs. Third, it promotes investment for public and private capital for development. Fourth, the bank assists in organizing the development policies of regional member countries. The AfDB is also required to give special attention to national, multinational projects which are needed to promote regional integration. So I mobilizing financial resources from the government or foreign financial institutions with a view to lending the money for development of specific sectors of the economy. So the AfDB was actually involved in the Green Wall project. Those of you who know anything about the Green Wall project, they were going to build a wall of trees across the Sahara, okay, to stop the advancement of the Sahara Desert. So yeah, Tyru, they're not taking our women either. I realize that's more sensationalism at this point. Yeah, there are a few cases. Okay, there are a few cases. I remember as a child in Ghana, I went to primary school with a whole lot of Korean. I didn't see much of Chinese. There were Chinese there, but they mainly kept to themselves. They had like a Chinese community. We had a few Chinese in our school, but mainly the half castes, okay, that I saw, okay, were mainly Korean, were half Korean and half Ghanaian children. And I remember when I went to Korea, in 2014. I went to Korea. I met a whole lot of these children there, these people that I went to school with. To my amusement, okay, to my surprise, I met about four of them, and then they introduced me to a whole lot of people that I didn't even know. They were all half Korean Ghanaian children in Korea. And my God, they were really, really beautiful. They were all girls though. So I was in the midst of like 10 girls, okay? 10 girls. They were all really, really pretty, really, really pretty girls. But yeah, I mean, it's really amazing where we would all be in the future. Nobody knows the future. See, here I found myself here in Australia, and they found themselves back in Korea, probably through their parents. Okay, usually it is the Korean father and the Ghanaian mother. Asian fetish. I do love I before I used to have fetish for Asian women, especially Japanese women. But yeah, nah, it's all childish dreams. Okay, when you grow up, you begin to see the world differently. Okay, yeah, begin to see the world differently. But it's really amazing. Like, all my travel throughout Asia, it's been really beautiful. Like, people were, nice to see me. They saw me so interesting. Everyone wanted to say hello to me. Like, I've backpacked through like villages in Asia, like Cambodia and Thailand. Okay, I met no hostility whatsoever. People just love me there. You know, people just love me because I'm generally a very nice person. I am down to earth, as some people will say. I'm down to earth. I talk with people, and I make an attempt to speak the language. So yeah, people really appreciate things like that. But if you've been an asshole, they'll treat you as such. But yeah, so yeah, that was my surprise. Okay, going to Korea and seeing a whole lot of Korean and half black children or people my age, called Blasians. Okay, and yeah, the Japanese in Japan alone, when the because of the presence of U.S. military in Yokohama, I was in Yokohama, a very beautiful city. and throughout Yokohama, Nagasaki, yeah, places like that. Okay, because they're used to black people. I went there; they were just so happy to see me. They even thought I was in the army. They thought I was American in the army. So they're so used to black people there. And guess what? The black people have fathered a lot of children in Japan. Okay, there are well over 5,000 children that were born to American soldiers. So yeah, there you go. Chaotic storm. It is a blessing to be of African descent in other countries because no one bothers you and people are pretty chill and receptive. Yeah, it is. It is. Especially the whole vitriol is that a lot of these people come. Okay, this to do with refugees. You uproot people from conflict zones and you bring them to your country. First of all, they don't know the norms and they so inflicted by the conflict. Okay, they probably lost the senses of humanity. Basically, they're afraid. And fear always generates a lot of problems. And so you bring these people into your country, you have no social reform for these people. Okay, they're basically just gonna see everybody as enemy. They don't have any trust for the system. They don't have any trust for anybody, even though you're trying to help them. So if you're trying to help a wounded animal, be careful. You might become a victim yourself. If you're trying to save a wounded lion, for instance, you can't just say, "Oh, the lion is injured, so I'm going to help the lion." If you're not careful, you end up losing your life. And this is what it is. So these governments go and bring all these refugees into a country like Australia, and these people come in here, and they're still continuing their conflicts here. But then, if you are a normal law-abiding citizen, you're loved. You're really loved. Okay, and I say this. Okay, I have not experienced any problem at all here in Australia. Almost 20 years being in Australia, I haven't experienced any problem at all. Any problem. Any problem. I always do what I have to do. Okay, contribute to society. I went to school, graduated, find a job, and do things like an everyday Australian. Okay, they would probably not even think of your existence at that point. But the moment you start creating problems, okay, the moment you start creating problems, you start committing crimes, okay, then the vitriol is going to come, then the hatred is going to come towards you. So yeah, usually a lot of people are receptive and yeah, they're pretty chill towards you. Thanks for that contribution, Chaotic Storm. So yeah, the function of the African Development Bank. Okay, this is what it is. Okay, so the motto is building today a better Africa tomorrow. Formation was September the 10th, 1964. Type is international organization. Legal status is a treaty. Purpose, regional development. Headquarters, Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire. Membership is 80 countries. So obviously that Africa has 54 countries. Okay, 54 countries. So 26 countries are non-African countries, basically. So the president is Akinwumi Adesina. I think he's Nigerian. Okay. So that's the president of the African Development Bank. The main organ is the Board of Executive Directors. Staff is 1,500 as of 31st of December 2016. And the website is www.afdb.org. Okay, .org. So yeah, that concludes my article on the African Development Bank. Okay, and the ADF came to the aid of Zimbabwe. Okay, and now Zimbabwe, Dr. Mumbi did a story on Zimbabwe where the new president of Zimbabwe, Ngwanga or whatever his name was is giving loans. Is giving loans. So Zimbabwe a few weeks ago did not have money. Okay, had to beg for loans and they were turned down. Okay, and then the African Development Bank came to the aid of Zimbabwe. Okay, gave Zimbabwe $600 billion, million dollars. Okay, $1 million to for food and whatnot. Okay, and now part of the money, okay, that Zimbabwe has got, okay, the current government is giving back reparations to white farmers that lost their lands during Mugabe's regime. So, it's really sad. It's really sad what's going on in the continent. It's really, really sad. Okay, it's really sad. But yeah, apparently, because Zimbabwe has a lot of sanctions as well. Zimbabwe has a lot of sanctions, so they have to rewrite a lot of the wrongs that Mugabe's government did. Okay, and these people, if you don't play by their rules, okay, you're going to be in big, big trouble. You're going to be, you either get assassinated, or there's going to be a lot of sanctions on you. Okay, as in the case of Venezuela at the moment. Okay, that's in the case of Venezuela at the moment. So you are slowly. This is what I say. Okay, you can work with people. Okay, you can work with everybody. Okay, but make sure you're having a better deal. Okay, make sure you're having a better deal. So I don't know where that is going, but yeah, I'd rather the white farmers in Zimbabwe contributing better to the Zimbabwean economy than self gain. Otherwise, these reparations to them is meaningless. Okay, it's meaningless. But whatever implementations that are in at the moment in the country, don't disrupt it. Okay, this is what Mandela did. Okay, if Mandela had driven the Boers out of Africa when they got independence, okay, South Africa wouldn't be an economic giant that you have it now. It wouldn't be. Okay, but Mandela had a policy or an idea to work with people, to the best interest of the nation. Okay, and that's why you have South Africa as it is at the moment. Okay, but then Africans left to their own devices will destroy themselves because of the self-hate and the pain and the suffering that they've gone through. Okay, so as in the case of Zimbabwe, how can Zimbabwe go from being the breadbasket of the world, basically of Europe, Britain? Zimbabwe was the pride of Britain, the pride and prize of Britain. How can it go from that to becoming a very, very poor country where people can't even get food to eat? So chaotic storm, it's funny how Venezuela has no real issue. Every problem that's occurring is manufactured through economic bullying in the West. That's it. Exactly it. Exactly. When you look at Zimbabwe, even Zimbabwe, no, I say this all the time, chaotic storm, okay? Africa has enough for itself. Okay. The whole world needs Africa. Okay. There's nothing outside Africa that can help Africa than what's already inside Africa. Okay. When you look at Zimbabwe, the soil in Zimbabwe is very, very fertile. Okay, you have rivers running left, right, and center throughout Zimbabwe. There's plenty of water. Okay, there's no drought in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is very green. There's plenty of natural resources. Copper, gold, what is this one? Iron ore, diamonds. Yeah. So it's not that Africa doesn't have, it's just politics. Okay, it's just politics and economic sanctions. Okay, that's what's crippling Africa. Okay, and it's a game. Politics is a dirty game. Okay, politics is a dirty game. So yeah, Venezuela, okay, Venezuela has huge oil economy. Huge oil economy. But how does a country that has huge oil economy collapse like that? It's all U.S. foreign policies, and the United States has sanctions on Venezuela. Okay, and it's the sanctions on Venezuela that's crippled Venezuela's economy. So basically, if you can't sell your oil, then you're not going to gain any money. Okay, and it's all politics. It's a dirty game. A U.S. sanction. So yeah, so basically the powers that be, okay, if you don't play the games, you end up, in the shits. Okay, you end up in the shits. Excuse me to use that word, but it is what it is. So here you have the membership of the African Development Bank. You have the AfDB. You have Algeria, Botswana, Egypt, Equatorial Guinea, Eswatini. Okay, Eswatini is Swaziland. Okay, the new name for Swaziland. So they changed the name Swaziland to Eswatini. It's the original name for Swaziland. Okay, you have Gabon, Mauritius, Morocco, Namibia, Seychelles, South Africa, Tunisia. Okay, the AfDB beneficiary countries. So you remember the AfDB has three parties. Is the AfDB, the ADF, and then the Nigerian Trust Fund. Okay, so the AfDB beneficiaries: Angola, Benin, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Central African Republic, Chad, Comoros, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ivory Coast, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Kenya, Lesotho, Liberia, Madagascar. So yeah, Madagascar. Where are you, family? African son, you were asking about Madagascar. So Madagascar is here. Okay, Madagascar is part of the beneficiary of the African Development Fund. Okay, so yeah. You have Malawi, you have Mali. Actually, there is a very nice story that I saw from. I think it's called the boy that can. Oh, what was this? The boy that can change wind into water. Who has seen that movie by Chenitue Ejiofor? It's actually this little boy, I think in ninth grade, who found a way to educate himself to develop a wind turbine. Okay, and he wind turbine to power his pump and to get water out of the ground to facilitate farming. I don't know who has seen that movie. Let's see. Boy who changed wind to water. Chini. I'm gonna butcher his name right now. Chini Chue Ijuo. I butchered that, but the boy who harnessed the wind. Boy who harnessed the wind. Yeah. I don't know if you can see this, family. That's the movie. Okay. This is a really good movie. It got 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know who's seen it. If you haven't seen this movie, please go see this movie. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind review. Okay. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. If you haven't seen this movie, go see it. Okay. Many years ago, like I think nearly 6-7 years ago, I read the story about this kid. Okay. This kid, I read a story about him. He basically did what he had to do. He had no money. They lived on a farm and they were impoverished. Okay. And through reading, okay, he built a windmill that drew water to irrigate. I have seen it before. I knew him before Netflix made the movie. Yeah. Oh, so the movie was Netflix funded, was it, JPV? Yeah. He got a scholarship. He got a scholarship and he was featured in a science magazine. Okay. So yeah, Chiwetel Ejiofor. Okay. That is the actor. is an award-winning actor. I really love his acting. He's really, really special actor. Okay, one of his best movies. Okay, this was exceptional acting here. Okay, so yeah, this thing here is true story. Okay, it doesn't, it shouldn't be, it shouldn't take the extraordinary. Okay, this is nothing extraordinary. Throughout Africa, African kids are very, 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 very smart, very, very innovative. But the system, the oppressive system, even he had to go through a lot of struggle with his father to be able to even build that windmill. Okay, to the point where he had to even go get his friends to come beat up his father. That was just so crazy. So for you, this movie here sums up the entire story of Africa, the economic struggle of Africa. Okay, so this is another I think another when JPV, when did Netflix do this movie? I think Thursday, 21st of February. I'll do a movie review on this one. Okay, I'll do a movie review on this. Okay, when I get the chance. Okay, so this here is the entire story of Africa. When Africans want to get out of poverty, okay, there are other institutions which are like the African government that halt any form of progress. Okay, any form of progress. And look, this smart individual, okay, this kid, okay, has become the victim of the brain drain. Okay, guess what? This kid got scholarship from the United States to go study in the United States. Okay, and when he graduates, there's no job for him in Africa. He has to stay, this smart individual here has to stay in the United States to work. To work. So it is very sad, right? It is very sad. It is very sad. So these are the problems in Africa, right? These are the problems in Africa. Okay, so where was I? The African Development Bank. Okay, so we have the member states, okay, member countries: Rwanda, Sao Tome Principe, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, Tanzania, Togo, Uganda, Zambia, and the AfDB and ADF beneficiary countries. You have Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and we have non-African member countries. We have Argentina. How can Argentina? I think Argentina is broke. How can Argentina be part of this? JPV, not sure. Buy new on Netflix. I'm not sure. I should have buy new. Oh, you need to buy new Netflix. You haven't. Okay. Come on, family. Netflix is cheap though. I got one free 1 year subscription of Netflix with my new phone. So that was pretty cool. That's a pretty cool deal that I got with my new Samsung Galaxy Note 9. And so yeah, we have non-African countries. We have Argentina, Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Canada, China, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, India, Italy, Japan, Kuwait, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, United Kingdom, and United States. Yeah, Saudi Arabia. I was looking out for Saudi Arabia, but they part here. Okay, they part here. So the list of countries, list of 20 largest countries by voting powers. So you know that Nigeria has the biggest economy in Africa. Okay, Nigeria has the biggest economy in Africa, so it is right that Nigeria has the biggest, the largest vote when it comes to the African Development Bank. You have nine, like nearly entirely. Okay, Nigeria has 9.2 votes. Okay, United States has 6.5 votes. Japan has 5.4 votes or 5.5 votes. Egypt has 5.3 votes. South Africa has 4.8 votes. Algeria has 4.2 votes. Germany has 4.12 votes. Canada has, so Canada is here. Okay, Canada is not so angelic. Okay, Canada is not so angelic. Okay, 3.8 France has 3.7. Okay, but the amount of money France is siphoning out of Africa, you think France would be the biggest, but not. Okay, probably not, but not. So you have Cote d'Ivoire contributing 3 votes, Libya contributing 3.6 votes. Okay, Morocco contributing 3.4 votes. And you know what's happening in Libya at the moment? Okay, they are on the brink of a major war. Okay, so there's this new general who is marching towards Tripoli to seize the capital of Libya, which is good for Libya. Okay, Libya needs one government to control all these rebels and suppress all these rebels and bring the country back to its former glory. Okay, but the fear is that when this happens, okay, they're going to be attacking Algeria, and we don't need this. Okay, we don't need this. So that is currently a speculation. Okay, that is currently a speculation to stop the effort of the unification of Libya. Okay, so the international governments are gonna say, "Oh, look, this guy's a dangerous man." I forgot what his name is. I forgot what his name is. Current. This current Libyan. Is it Margaret? Okay. I forgot my article, but what it is they were marching towards the capital Tripoli, okay, and gonna capture the capital, but they're expecting it to be a peaceful march into the capital of Tripoli, okay, without any resistance, okay. But when that happens, okay, the international media are pushing the idea that Libya is gonna be that powerful, they're gonna attack Algeria. So the African Union needs to be on top of that, okay. So yeah, I can only hope. So we have on the 12th position, we have Morocco, 3.4. We have Italy. Okay, what say has Italy? Okay, Italy is broke and busted. What say has Italy? But, all these countries, when they lose their hold on Africa, they're all gonna run bankrupt, especially France. All right, but Italy had a hold on Libya as well. But you have Ghana 14th. You have Zimbabwe. You have Italy has 2.4 votes. Ghana has 2.1. You have Zimbabwe 15th being 2.2 votes, 2.22 votes. You have United Kingdom 1.6 votes. You have Ethiopia 1.5 votes. You have Sweden 1.5 votes. You have Switzerland 1.4, and you have Kenya 1.4. So you have country like Sweden, like you say, Sweden, what has Sweden to do with Africa? Like people who make such statements have to be the dumbest people on the planet. Okay. Sweden influences Africa in so many ways. Switzerland influences Africa in so many ways. There was an article about Zambia where the Swiss company in Zambia owns a copper mine in Zambia, and they made a annual profit of $19 billion, some staggering amount of money. But whilst doing that, they polluted the waters in Zambia. Zambians are still impoverished. Okay, but you're making a profit of $19 billion from the mineral extraction plant in Zambia. So these people came under fire. Switzerland came under fire. So none of these countries are innocent. Okay, they're raping Africa on a grand scale. Okay, they're raping Africa on a grand scale. So yeah, basically, it is what it is. I'll leave the article in the description box. Whoever is interested can go have a look this research. This will take me to my final article. Okay, so this article is from New Business Ethiopia, reporting business since 2009, and I actually came across an article here where it was about Amazon.com is gonna go bankrupt because the CEO of Amazon, what is his name? Jeff JPV is still here. What's the CEO of Amazon, Jeff something? Anyway, it's been predicted because he's been investing a lot of money. Okay, he's invested $1 billion into some investment fund, and well, Elon Musk as well invested billions of dollars. Like all these people have been investing money into other businesses. Okay, so at the rate of investment of Amazon, okay, the article was saying that Amazon is going to be bankrupt, but I needed to send my email address to get the full article to read. So it is what it is. Okay, it is what it is. It's all evolution. Okay, evolution. So this article is Egypt expresses support for regional integration. Okay, i.e., okay, aka Pan-Africanism. Quincy Pinola, thanks for joining the stream. Can you read the article about Ethiopia's dam and how it will affect Egypt? Okay, so maybe in another stream, but I'll tell you what it is. Okay, this grand Renaissance dam in Ethiopia has been a debate since 2000, I think 2005, when they started this building of the dam or project, the dam project. Okay, it's really angered a whole lot of people, especially Egyptians, especially during the time of this head of state puppet government put in place by the Obama government, the Obama administration of the United States. They put in this MoMA, not MoMA, what's his name? Mohammed Mercy. Okay, basically under that they gave Egypt a whole lot of F-16 fighters. They gave Egypt a lot of military gear, a lot of money. Okay, this is what is ruining Africa. Okay, these puppet governments. Okay, and United States is doing this under Obama. Okay, did this. Okay, under Obama, Gaddafi was taken out, and look at the shit nature of Libya at the moment. Okay, so because the US, okay, Ethiopia doesn't have good foreign policy with the US. So all these things are going to be politics. It's going to be playing out in political battle. Okay, and there's going to be a lot of propaganda pushed by Western governments and whatnot. Okay, so the Grand Renaissance Dam, because the Nile sources from Ethiopia, the highlands of Ethiopia. Okay, the highlands of Ethiopia. Okay, the melted snow in the highlands of Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. Okay, all gave rise to the Nile. That's why ancient Egyptians said it came from the origin of the origin of the Nile, the beginning of the Nile. Okay, which is the Great Lakes region, basically around Malawi, Rwanda, Uganda, Burundi, Ethiopia, Kenya. Okay, that's where the Egyptians came from, right? And DNA shows you that the Tutsis were ancient Egyptians. But now going back to the trouble with the dam, okay, it's only speculative and fear that Ethiopia is going to shut down the Nile. No, they're not. Ethiopia only controls one main tributary of the Nile, which is the the Blue Nile comes from Ethiopia. I'm confused which one it is, but one of the tributaries come from Ethiopia. I'm going to go with the Blue Nile coming from Ethiopia, right? So the Grand Renaissance Dam on that tributary is going to reduce water flow into the Nile, which is greatly going to affect Egypt. And majority of Egyptians, about 90% of Egyptians live on the Nile. Live on the Nile. So if the Nile dies, okay, Egypt will cease to exist. Okay, but the Nile having dammed. You have Egypt alone has two main dams on the Nile. You have in Khartoum, there's a dam as well. In Sudan, there's a dam. I mean, so Ethiopia building that Grand Renaissance Dam is going to be the father of all the dams on the Nile. But it's purposefully to generate electricity for Ethiopia, because Ethiopia's population is huge. Ethiopia's population is way bigger than Egyptian population. That's why they needed this dam. Okay, and this dam is being funded by China. China is funding this dam. But anyway, so the politics surrounding this is propaganda that Ethiopia is going to cut water supply, is going to starve Egypt out of the water, the Nile. That's not the case. That's not the case. If anything, it should be Sudan that should be crying out, because they are immediate after Ethiopia. But that's not the case. So it's all propaganda, right? And during Mohamed Mersi's time, they were debating on parliament whether to go strike the dam. So because of the new, Egypt had at the time got new F-16 fighter jets. They wanted to launch their F-16 fighter jets to go blow up the dam. Okay. So this is the evil that people can do, or people can plan. But I'm glad none of that is happening. Okay, the new president. Okay, what's his name? Mohamed Mersi. Okay, there was a coup d'etat to take this evil man out of office. Okay, by General El-Sisi. Okay, General El-Sisi, who is the current president of the of Egypt. Okay, held a referendum and he was voted back in power. Okay, and he's now the president of Egypt. Okay, he did a good thing. He did a great thing. Okay, he did a great thing for Egypt and for Africa. Okay, and what he's doing is promoting more Pan-Africanism and regional integration. Okay, so that's a side story, Quincy Pinola, and another day I'll read on that. Okay, I'll read on that article. Okay, so the new president of Egypt took position since 2013. Okay. First during the coup d'etat, and then he was voted into office. And he is General El-Sisi is now the African Union's chairperson of the African Union. Okay, so Egypt is a paramount member of the African Union. Okay, and so this article, Egypt expresses support to regional integration. Okay. Egypt has affirmed its strong support for the African Development Bank as a development partner and is committed to strengthening regional integration. The country's Prime Minister, Mustafa Madbouli, said during a meeting in Cairo with a bank delegation. Madbouli affirmed Egypt's readiness to work with the African Development Bank. We are working hard to strengthen our relationships with African nations, and the African Development Bank is a very important partner, the Prime Minister said. So when you look at the African Development Bank, I know I've been there before, but I've read a bit of it. But Egypt is how the African Development Bank makes money is through donations. So a lot of donations, and the African Development Bank lends money to countries for infrastructure development, but they do not charge interest. They do not charge interest on the loans they give out. They have an annual surcharge. Okay, but Egypt is one of the biggest donors to the African Development Bank, and you have countries like the UK donates money to the African Development Bank, and you have United States as well. Okay, they have shares. So the United States have shares in the African Development Bank. Okay, and the UK as well. So as Japan and all these, Germany and that. Okay, so if you want to do something on a grand level, okay, I think the African Union sources money from the funding from the African Development Bank as well. So if you want to donate money to any organization in Africa that will support infrastructure development and that, okay, buy shares in the African Development Bank. Okay, this is what you need to do. All right, so Madbouli affirmed Egypt's readiness to work with the African Development Bank. We are working hard to strengthen our relationship with African nations, and the African Development Bank is a very important partner, the Prime Minister said. During a 4-day delegation mission, the bank delegation led by Khalid F. Sharif, African Development Bank Group Vice President, Regional Development, Integration and Business Delivery, discussed the need for the country to develop value chains and processing facilities on the continent in order to reduce export of raw materials or raw goods such as cotton, coffee, cocoa, and to employ more Africans. So you hear this, family. Okay, this is what they discuss. Okay, everyone is waking up to the reality that, if you're not a manufacturer, there's no way you're gonna make wealth. Okay, all these resources. Okay, the whole world lives and breathes coffee and cocoa. I can't live a single day without chocolate. Okay, if I don't have a chocolate a day, I'm missing out, and everybody else. You go to your grocery shops. Okay, it's full of chocolates everywhere. Chocolates. Okay, chocolate, and you have cotton. You use cotton in your everyday, your clothing and everything else. Okay, and cocoa and coffee and these things and the things that come out of the ground, your electronics. Okay, all these things come out of Africa. All these things come out of Africa. Okay. And Africans do not process any of these things. They sell them in the form of raw materials, and this is not how to generate wealth. So part of the discussion is to during the 4-day delegation mission, the bank delegation led by Khalid F. Sharif, African Development Bank Group Vice President, Regional Development, Integration and Business Delivery, discussed the need for the country to develop value chains and processing facilities on the continent in order to reduce the export of raw goods such as cotton, coffee, and cocoa, and to employ more Africans. The bank team also met several other cabinet ministers and the chairperson of the Central Agency for Public Mobilization and Statistics, CAPMAS, Kirat Barakat. The mission followed a February meeting between President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, so that's the president of Egypt, and African Development Bank President Akinwumi Adesina, on the sidelines of AU Summit in Addis Ababa. So that was the 32nd AU Summit recently held in February. The goal of the mission was to reinforce the bank's support for Egypt's chairmanship of the African Union that President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi took up at the summit of the African Union earlier this year. The bank delegation, which included Egypt's country manager, Marlene Blomberg, chief country economist, Sarah Burton, and principal country program officer, Samuel Kamara, also examined the pipeline of bank projects in the country, including opportunities to strengthen infrastructure such as energy, sanitation, and transport, as well as skills for workforce of the future. So the workforce of the future are the children of Africa, basically, or the youth of Africa. So provide skills for the workforce of Africa. The meetings underscored bank support to the implementation of Egypt's agenda under its chairperson or chairmanship of the AU. The bank is particularly promoting the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Okay, so there you have it. So the purpose of the bank is to promote Continental Free Trade Agreement, so intra-trade agreement. So trade is what's going to really, really unite Africans together. So when Africans stop exporting bulk of their resources to European countries and and just trading within themselves. Okay, just shutting the door to outsiders and trading within themselves. Okay, so the power is always within. The power is always within. Okay, so the bank is particularly promoting the Continental Free Trade Agreement and regional integration on the continent. So those of you who saw Dr. Mimbi's interview, okay, you will have an idea of that. The bank discussed deepening its support to Egypt's national priorities for continued growth and employment. Notably, Quincy Pinola, if you're still here, you would if you watched the 32nd AU summit, okay, if you followed the news, I think I actually brought out an article to read about how the president of Egypt and Ethiopia met. Okay, this is why I love Abiy Ahmed so much. Okay, that he's willing to work. He's willing to work. So Abiy Ahmed was hand in hand with LCC. Okay, and the main topic was the Nile. So LCC was to ensure that Egypt gets enough water. Okay, Egypt gets enough water. So yeah, I'm glad he's still here, Quincy Pinola. I'm glad he's still here. So yeah, there you have it. Okay, so now the LCC is the chairperson or the chairman of the African Union. You know, the Grand Renaissance Dam. Okay, is for all Africans. Okay, it's for all Africans. Okay, it's for Africa for Africans. Okay, Africa for Africans. This is what I say. So the bank discussed deepening its support to Egypt's national priorities for continued growth and employment, notably the energy and sanitation sectors, as well as higher education. Discussions also focused on the establishment of a guarantee investment fund announced by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi at the Africa 2018 forum in Sharm el-Sheikh in December, to promote Egyptian outward investment in sub-Saharan Africa. So there you have it, family. There you have it. So all those naysayers who are saying, "Oh, North Africans are not really Africans," and stuff like that, you know, it's unnecessary. Okay, these people are Africans. Okay, if it comes down to genetic level, these people are Africans. They are African blood. Okay, they may just look different because they're mixed with Europeans and light-skinned Arabs. Okay, but and the Ottoman Turks, most recently the Ottoman Turks. Okay, the Ottoman Turks ruled North Africa until in the 1920s. Okay, Morocco. That's why you have Moroccans looking light-skinned, but Moroccans are black people. Okay, Libyans are black people. Algerians are black people. Egyptians are black people, Tunisians are black people. Okay, all you have to do is just go south of these capital cities. You go south of the capital cities, it's all black people everywhere. It's all black people. So yeah, it's ignorance, really. It's ignorance. So yeah. So Egypt is the bank's. So this is talking about the African Development Bank. So Egypt is the bank's second largest regional shareholder and third client in terms of cumulative historical approvals, making it a stronger partner. So you can't have the African Development Bank without Egypt. Okay, Egypt contributes a huge amount to the African Development Bank, and Gaddafi was actually going to do better. Okay, and they had to take Gaddafi away. Okay, they have to assassinate Gaddafi. Okay, they had to remove Gaddafi. So the bank began financing operations in Egypt in 1974. Since that time, it has financed over 125 projects worth $6.5 billion in infrastructure development. So you have transport, power, water supply, and sanitation, agriculture, communications, finance, industry, and social sectors, as well as economic and institutional reforms and capacity building. Today, the bank has a portfolio of 30 operations in Egypt valued at $2.9 billion. Over the past 3 years of significant fiscal consolidation, Egypt has seen a diversified economy with services accounting for about half its gross domestic product, GDP. Industry, 34% of GDP, and agriculture, 12%. So there you have it, all right? Agencies collaborate to boost intra-Africa trade. So this article came in July 8th. Okay, so family, let's have a look at that quickly. Okay, let's see if I can. Why is my internet slow? So yeah, this is a quick article, I think. Why is this related to Morocco's trade with Africa conjures promising prospects? Okay, so there you go. So every country in Africa is integral. Okay, is necessary. Okay, is necessary for the growth of Africa. So enough of the BS. Okay, enough of the BS going on. Okay, enough of the BS going on. Okay, Africa must unite. Okay, Africa must unite. Oh, I wish I could see the blown out photo of this. Okay, so this basically has divided. Open image, a new tab. Let's see if we can get a bigger image. It doesn't look too great, but here you have so-called West African countries, which is not really. This is a portion of North Africa. Okay, but you have was this? I can't really see what this is, but this looks like Northeast Africa, and you have here the Southern African states. So basically, like economic zones. So this looks like the economic zones. Okay, so you have the Southern African Economic Community, and you have the ECOWAS. Okay, this is the ECOWAS. I thought Mauritania. This is Mauritania, and Mauritania is part of the ECOWAS. Okay, Mauritania is part of the ECOWAS. So I don't know what Morocco and Algeria here. I don't know what they're up to. And you have Chad, the Congos, and you have Cameroon here. So I don't know what. I can't see the full picture of this. I'll have to look at this article another day. But yeah, I'll have to look at that article another day. But yeah, okay. So yeah, family. So this concludes my stream for today. I think I have gone through everything that I needed to do or say in terms of this. For today's what did you say, Quincy Panola? Greece and Rome ruled North Africa for 1,000 years. Yeah, there you go, family. So Greece and the Romans. Yeah. So imagine how much they've mixed with the population, right? How much they've mixed with the population. So, like I tell the family, okay, my grandfather is half German American, right? And when I did my DNA test, okay, when I did my DNA test, it came like I'm 60% North Moroccan Berber and Algerian Mozabite. Okay, these are white people. Berber, Moroccan Berber. We say there are black Berbers, but and there are black Berbers and white Berbers. Okay, but when you say Berbers, okay, we mean white people that are Germanic white people. Even when you look at the migration pattern, there's one thing called the Germanic expansion. Okay, they expanded all through North Africa. Okay, so these Germanic people mixed with North Africans. That's why you have their colors today like that. But they're not white people. They Africans. Okay, they're Africans, right? So my German great grandparents can trace their ancestry to Africa. See, and then when you have the Moors, the Vandals, yes, the Vandals. When you have the Moors in Europe, okay, the Moors ruled all the way into Germany as well, all the way into Germany, all the way into England, all the way to Scotland. The Moors did that. They have the bloodline all throughout Europe. You see. So we everybody essentially today has African blood. Okay, I don't care. I don't care about a million years ago. I don't care about what I'm talking about today. There's no single person on earth today without African blood. No single person. So yeah, enough of the racism, enough of the, it's so ignorant and so stupid on so many levels. Okay, people that are racist and they're so ignorant. Okay, everything else is economic. Racism is economics. It's not about skin color. It's not about human nature. It's just economics. Okay, the rich are rich, the poor are poor. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. It is what it is. All right, it is what it is. So I will stop presenting for now. I have shared all my news stories. Okay. Stop presenting. Coming back to myself. Yeah. So this has been a very lengthy one. I appreciate everyone for being part of it. I chose to do such a lengthy stream because I am going to be very busy during the week. I'm looking for new work. That's my fridge drawing water. I'm going to be really tied up with family and stuff like that. So this is the only time I can come on here and do this. So this is the least that I can do. Okay, if you're just coming in, you cannot watch it all. Okay, break it into segments. Okay, at your own free will, you can watch it by segments. Okay, you can speed it up. Okay, you can speed it up. Always speed it up. You can watch it 2 times speed if you want. I know I talk pretty fast, but if you want to speed it up, you can do that. And it's all about information. Okay, and I'm gonna leave the articles in the description box as well, so you can have a read at your own leisure as well. So yeah, so there's a whole lot that's going on the mother continent in terms of Pan-Africanism, promoting regional integration. And Egypt, the president of Egypt, El-Sisi, is the chairperson of the African Union, and Egypt currently is the second contributor to the African Development Bank. So the African Development Bank is going to play a major role in the development of Africa in the coming future. So yeah, if you want to donate or buy shares, okay, make sure you buy shares from the African Development Bank. Okay, help it grow. Okay, help it grow. Because so far the African Development Bank can only fund small developmental projects. Okay, but with your help, you can help contribute. All right, we can all help contribute. So yeah, I know the African Union came to the United States. They had a conference, and they were urging Africans in the diaspora to help fund the African Union. Okay, a lot of people were in a dilemma how to fund the African Union. But this is an avenue for you, okay, to donate money to the African Development Bank, or buy shares in the African Development Bank. Buy shares in the African Development Bank. Okay, so basically, what the African Development Bank needs to do is take control of Africa's natural resources. Okay, use it to back their currency. All right, this is what they need to do. Then, depending on donations at the moment. So yeah, it is what it is, family. Yeah, so my stream is finished. The topic is complete. Okay, the China Africa relationship. Okay, Africa needs to benefit the most. Africa needs to benefit the most. Okay, whatever agreements they've signed. Okay, they need to go back to the drawing board and address the concerns of the African people. Put African people at a focal point. Okay, of discussion. Okay, how things will benefit Africans than benefit the Western governments or the Eastern governments or whatnot. So yeah. Any other questions in the stream? If you're still here, Quincy Pinola. If you're still here, do you have any question? JPV? JPV, do you have any question? I hope this has been edifying. I hope this has really helped. So yeah, thank you to all the new subscribers again. Thank you for all the support that I get on my channel. I really appreciate all. Chaotic Storm, I totally agree. Quincy Pinola, no questions. Right. Thank you so much, family. Thank you. All right. In unity, we can always win. Okay. In unity, we can reach the top. Okay. Let us not keep destroying ourselves, because at this stage, okay, we are our own worst enemies. Okay. Let us come out of that spell. Okay. Let us come out of that spell. Okay. You know, dispel the myths and the misconceptions and the miseducation and unite. Okay. Unite. Okay. As one global entity. All right. So yeah, Pan-Africanism is well alive. Okay. Is well alive, and Pan-Africanism is not dead. All right, family. Thank you all again. Once again, Chiefdryno signing out. Salute to the family. Live well, love one another. And I shall catch you guys in the stream. All right. Peace out, family. Peace out. Peace out.